This is Once Upon a Crime, and I'm your host, Esther. If you're new to the channel, I encourage you to subscribe for more true crime stories. We're continuing with our series on serial killer Ted Bundy. This is part 2 of Ted Bundy for the Defense. We want to thank Completing the Puzzle for sponsoring today's episode. For puzzles made easy, go to completingthepuzzle.com. It's basically Netflix for puzzles. Rent, solve, return, repeat. Use our coupon code OUAC for $10 off your first subscription box or gift card. Completing the Puzzle, because no one's been murdered while doing a puzzle. By the time Ted Bundy was arrested in Utah in the summer of 1975, he already believed he was smarter than the system hunting him. Smarter than the police, smarter than prosecutors, smarter than judges, and most dangerously, smarter than the consequences. On August 16, 1975, Bundy was pulled over in Granger, Utah, which should have been a routine stop, immediately escalated when he fled from the officer. When police searched his vehicle, they found burglary tools, handcuffs, a crowbar, a ski mask, and a rope. Bundy, calm as ever, lied without hesitation. He lied about why he was in the neighborhood. He lied about why he ran. He thought his charm could manipulate the cops. This was Ted Bundy's default mode. Denial wrapped in confidence, delivered with a smile. Within weeks, something else happened. Something that would later haunt investigators. Bundy sold his tan Volkswagen Beetle. Utah police immediately impounded it and sent it to the FBI. They didn't yet know that the car itself would become one of the most damning witnesses against him. On October 2, 1975, Carol DaRonch was brought before a police lineup. Months earlier, she had survived something few others did, an extended, terrifying encounter with a man who tried to kidnap her in broad daylight. She had been lured from a mall, driven to a parking lot, trapped inside a car, and handcuffed. She escaped by sheer force of will and a little luck. When she saw Bundy in the lineup, she didn't hesitate. She identified him as her attacker. Ted Bundy, the man who believed charm could conquer all, had underestimated the one thing he couldn't control, a victim who had lived to ID him. Police began noticing what many had already suspected. Bundy fit the profile of Seattle Ted. Same name, same physical description, same car. Seattle police didn't have enough evidence to charge him, but they put him under surveillance. Meanwhile, in November 1975, something unprecedented happened. Investigators from Washington, Utah, and Colorado gathered in Aspen for what became known as the Aspen Summit. Investigators with open cases of missing and murdered women met to compare notes on their suspect, Ted. Dozens of detectives, prosecutors from 5 states. They didn't leave with an arrest warrant, but they left convinced Ted Bundy was their man. They just had to prove it. As Bundy prepared for his trial in early 1976, the FBI finished dismantling his Volkswagen. Inside, they found evidence, including hair. Hair that forensic specialists determined was microscopically identical to 3 different victims: Karen Campbell, Melissa Smith, and Carol DaRonch. Women who had never met. Women from different states. FBI lab specialist Robert Neal would later say the odds of that occurring by chance were, quote, a coincidence of mind-boggling rarity. Bundy never addressed this evidence against him. Instead, he focused on what he believed was his strength, himself. Against the advice of his attorney, and against the advice of his friend Marlon Vortman, who called Bundy's strategy nuts, Ted Bundy waived his right to a jury trial. He chose to put his fate in the hands of a single judge, convinced he could charm one man more easily than a jury of 12. It was a catastrophic miscalculation. To Bundy, the courtroom wasn't a place of reckoning. It was a stage. Vortman later said that Ted treated the trial like an episode of Perry Mason. He joked with reporters, smiled for the cameras, and enjoyed the attention. In court, he projected control, sitting upright, composed, and professional. But there were cracks. Bundy stared at Carol DaRonch in a way that many found chilling, intense, and unblinking. And just as deliberately, he refused to look at the parents of the other victims seated in the courtroom: Shirlene Amy, Belva Kent, and Police Chief Lewis Smith, people whose daughters never came home. Bundy couldn't meet their eyes. On March 1st, 1976, Judge Stuart Hansen found Ted Bundy guilty of aggravated kidnapping. Not because of charm, not because of confidence, but because Bundy lied again and again. Judge Hansen cited Bundy's false statements and the clothing found in his home that the witnesses described, and Bundy said he'd never owned. Above all, the judge was convinced by Carol DaRonch's unwavering credibility. Bundy had believed that minor inconsistencies in Carol's testimony, brought out during his attorney's confrontational cross-examination, would save him. He forgot something essential. Trauma does not erase truth. Before sentencing, Bundy underwent a comprehensive psychological evaluation at Utah State Prison. Leading the assessment was clinical psychologist Dr. Al Carlisle. Bundy enjoyed the interviews. He always did. To him, this was a game of wits. He believed himself Carlisle's equal, perhaps his superior. After all, Bundy had studied psychology. He'd worked in a mental health clinic. But Carlisle wasn't fooled. As interviews progressed, Bundy's calm demeanor fractured whenever the conversation turned towards fear, anger, or vulnerability. At one point, Bundy exploded. "I don't have fears," he yelled. "Fear, pain, and punishment don't stick with me." Carlisle also uncovered Bundy's lifelong resentment about his illegitimacy, his fury at learning his grandparents were not his parents and his mother was not his sister. When asked about his father, Bundy's face contorted and reddened. "He left my mother and me and never rejoined the family." Carlisle documented something else, something chilling: an early obsession with sex, a pattern of cruelty masked as pranks, a tendency to frighten people for pleasure, holding a woman underwater, jumping out of bushes to terrify girlfriends. The same behaviors in the same neighborhoods where women were disappearing. Bundy scored in the top 10% intellectually, but psychologically, he was rigid, narcissistic, and hostile towards women. His Rorschach tests revealed an aberrant feeling towards females, ranging from withdrawal to aggression. He was described as callous, entitled, and manipulative. This was the Ted Bundy beneath the charm. Hey everyone! Before we get back to the episode, I want to introduce you to our newest sponsor, Completing the Puzzle, the subscription puzzle service that is officially my favorite new way to spend a cozy night in. So here's the deal. Every month they send you a beautiful, high-quality jigsaw puzzle. You put the pieces together, literally, and when you're done, you send it back for free, and they swap it for brand new one. No clutter, no storage crisis, no suspicious pile of puzzles lurking in the corner like evidence you haven't disposed of yet. And because this is once upon a crime, let me just say this. If you ever wanted to practice your detective skills without getting, arrested, this is the perfect hobby. You get all the satisfaction of solving something without any fingerprints left at the scene. Host a cozy winter puzzle night with friends or family. A nice bottle of wine or mugs of herbal tea, fuzzy blankets, and everyone working together to crack the case of the missing corner piece. You know the one. For our viewers, we've got a special deal. Use the code OUAC at checkout for $10 off a subscription or gift card. That's 33% off your first month with code OUAC. So head on over to completingthepuzzle.com, use code OUAC, and let the monthly mystery solving begin. Because no one's been murdered while doing a puzzle. On June 30th, 1976, Bundy appeared in court as his own attorney. He looked exhausted, disheveled. He wore a shirt stamped with the words diagnostic, his feeble attempt at thumbing his nose at the court. He read a rambling, self-pitying letter to the judge, eventually breaking down in sobs. He denied every conclusion the psychological report made about him. The judge was not swayed. He found Ted Bundy guilty of aggravated kidnapping and sentenced him to 1 to 15 years. Within weeks, Bundy was transferred to maximum security. Escape plans had already been discovered. By January 1977, he was extradited to Colorado to face murder charges there. Once again, he inserted himself into his defense. Why? Because acting as co-counsel meant privileges, law library access, movement, and opportunity. Despite warnings from detectives, Bundy was left unshackled during court breaks. On June 7, 1977, Ted Bundy leapt from a second-story courthouse window. He sprained his ankle, but kept running. He wandered, lost in the mountains, for days. He broke into a cabin and stole supplies. Eventually, weak and delirious, he stole a car, only to be caught days later. Bundy returned to jail, bruised, humiliated, but unbroken. By late 1977, panic finally set in. Bundy admitted he needed real legal help. He wrote desperately to attorney John Henry Brown, quote, "My life hangs in the balance." But it was too late. Bundy secured a hacksaw, lost 30 pounds, and explored crawl spaces at night while guards ignored warnings. On December 30th, 1977, he escaped again, this time successfully. He crawled into the jailer's apartment, changed clothes, and disappeared into a snowstorm. By the time anyone noticed, Bundy was long gone. Bundy's escape route led him to Chicago, Michigan, and Georgia. He often found himself drawn to college towns and campuses. He had one particular college town in mind as his final destination. On January 8, 1978, Ted Bundy arrived in Tallahassee, Florida. By now, he was on the FBI's most wanted list. His face was known nationwide, but Bundy believed, once again, that he could disappear into plain sight. He would not stay hidden for long. Only 9 days after arriving in Florida, the tension that had been building inside him, through confinement, fear, and frustration, would explode. What followed would be the most frenzied and vicious attack of his life. The mask was no longer holding. The monster, uncontained, would strike again, this time with unimaginable violence. In Part 3, we'll follow Ted Bundy into Florida, to the Chi Omega sorority house, to the brutal attacks that left multiple women dead, and to the moment when Ted Bundy's final illusion of control was destroyed forever. If you want to continue this series, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss Part 2. And if you prefer to listen on the go, you can find Once Upon a Crime wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Once Upon a Crime Podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify, or Amazon Music. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Once again, we'd like to thank Completing the Puzzle for sponsoring this video. Completing the Puzzle is the first ever puzzle rental subscription service delivered right to your door. Join over 60,000 happy puzzlers at completingthepuzzles.com and use our discount code OUAC for $10 off your first subscription box or gift card. Completing the Puzzle, because no one's been murdered while doing a puzzle.